the Business Civic Leadership Center's Adding Values in Emerging Markets Conference. We're very fortunate to have Neil Paine with us from Chaka Market Bridge, and it is completely different than anything you're going to see at this conference. Neil, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Chaka Market Bridge. You said that you are headquartered now in
Virginia.
But you were in Nicaragua?
That's correct.
That's a big difference.
It is a big difference. I think there's one of the things that we've learned as we've gotten further and further into this business is that you just can't even compare the way that business is done in Nicaragua and Virginia. And that's where, hence the Market Bridge in our name. I mean, we really exist to bridge that span between the two.
So what does Chaka Market Bridge do? And let's ask about what it does first.
Sure. We work with individual producers and artisans in Nicaragua, for instance, and we create a marketplace for what it is that they make here in the States. So, we were founded when we saw that out of microfinance, a lot of producers around the world were getting loans, and they were making more of whatever it is that they make, and they were making it better. But the problem is that there wasn't a market for those things. And so what happened very often is that the producer was left with a loan payment and a good product. And so we were founded to be sort of the demand side of that equation.
So would it be fair to say you're an export-import company?
That would be very fair.
And you're for profit?
We are indeed. Yeah.
What are some of the kinds of products that you import into the United States?
Mostly right now we're focusing on the home decor category. So if you look at Nicaragua, what they're good at are things like ceramic vases or wooden bowls and other utilitarian objects. And not that Nicaragua is great at it, but we have some great iron work, some iron producers down in Nicaragua as well. So.
Now, the unique thing, if you will, about Chaka Market Bridge is its requirement of fair trade. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. We have a lot of people ask us what our rubric is for working with a producer, and the Fair Trade Federation, we're members of the Fair Trade Federation, and they have 9 different criteria ranging from child labor to fair wages and many things in between, which are requirements of working with us. But we also have some relational criteria that extend beyond that, both in impact categories but also in relational categories in terms of business and within their homes and their communities and things like that.
Well, what do you mean by relational category?
Well, it's interesting. One of the differences in business between the U.S. and perhaps Nicaragua is the importance of relationships in everything that happens. Many of our producers tell us that relationships are more important than money. Now that may or may not be the case, but at the end of the day, our relationship with those producers is what drives us forward. Every piece that we produce or that we import has a tag on it, and each tag has a picture of the producer, has a little bit of their story, and most of the pieces are signed on the bottom of them. And so that relationship is literally what drives us from beginning to end.
How did you start this? What was the seed, or was there an aha moment, or what was it that started this?
You know, really, I spoke a little bit earlier about the connection to microfinance, and I was doing a lot of microfinance work in Ecuador and observed this sort of phenomenon of producers making more and making better, but then being left with no markets. If you look at the case, for instance, one of the communities where we work, where we do most of our ceramics, it's called a community called San Juan de Oriente, Nicaragua. It's a community of 5,600 people. 4,000 of them are potters. So you can imagine the economic impact of something like that. If they're all potters, then nobody's buying pottery in their community. Yeah. And it's literally true. You walk through the houses in that community and not a single one of them has a decorative vase in there. Yet the vases that they produce are absolutely world class. So for us, we saw both an opportunity to create impact and also to make some money, frankly.
So how is it that you find out about them other than through your own work in microfinance, and what do you do to add value besides providing them a place to sell their goods, which is a pretty big thing?
Sure. Well, we do a lot of things. I think to speak to how we find them, it's become sort of interesting as our business grows and people become more aware of our business. Many producers actually find us through Facebook. It's a sign of the times of sort of the realities of 2011, and even these producers who have to go to a cyber cafe, in a remote village in Nicaragua, will get onto Facebook and write on our company Facebook wall, and many times they'll tag product pictures and things like that. In terms of what we do beyond just creating a marketplace, we try to be a multi-directional market channel, and so what that means to us is that we work on facilitating the flow of market information back into Nicaragua and into these producers. And so, for instance, one of the things that we do next month, we're taking a product designer from a major home decor brand here in the United States down to Nicaragua next month to put on a workshop of design innovation with these people to help them say, okay, here's what's special about your cultural heritage in these products, and here is what the U.S. market desires right now. How can we really bridge those two together?
Is Nicaragua the only country that you buy from now?
It's the fundamental country that we buy from now. We have sort of partnership operations in other countries, and our goal is to expand it all over the world, but that sort of takes time.
As you expand all over the world, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in a partner that's on the ground? What are you looking for in an artisan? Do they have to have a Facebook account?
No, they don't have to have a Facebook account, and really, although many producers are finding us via Facebook now, most of them don't. And so two of the things that we look for, one is a regional specialty. For instance, with ceramic vases in Nicaragua, it's an absolute regional specialty, yet it's undiscovered. And that's sort of the second criteria, is that the product be relatively undiscovered. And most people here in the United States have not heard of pottery from San Juan de Oriente, Nicaragua,
right.
Yet it is world-class in quality. And the third requirement that we look for is really just that person themselves and sort of their personal ethic. If we are to grant them access to a greater market, what are they going to do with the money? We need to be sure that that money is going to flow into their family and that their family is going to contribute as good citizens within
Neil,
their community.
You're a business. Why do you care?
You know, fundamentally, we are a business, and really we're funded maybe with more nonprofit aspirations, with impact aspirations, but the way that we see as the channel to create the best impact is through a for-profit business. It instills the right motivations in what we do. So,
do you know some of your artisans?
You know, I actually know every single one of them. I have met every single one of them and spoken with them. A number of them have my phone number here in the United States, and they'll get promotional minutes on their cell phones in Nicaragua and will frequently call me up here.
Well, what are some of those conversations?
You know, they range, a lot of them. One call I got a few weeks back here in Virginia. In the span of 1 week, we had a significant earthquake and then a major hurricane come through. And I got a number of calls from different artisans who were concerned. They said, Neil, is your family okay? Are you okay? That's sort of the level of relationship that we've developed.
Is it a good business model?
I believe it's the best business model. It's not only financially viable, but also extremely personally rewarding to have relationships with these people.
You're here at the Added Value in Emerging Markets conference, and this is sponsored by the Business Civic Leadership Center. How is this of help to you?
You know, it's been fantastic so far just to listen to the different speakers and panelists and to think about what it is that they do and how that can then be applied to some of the places where we work. It's very easy for us to put our blinders on and say, this is our mission and that's it. This is the mission and the strategy that we see to help propel the people that we work with forward. But even just listening so far, some of the ideas that have been put forward and the technologies that are being developed, the government programs that are being started, I can see them being extremely beneficial in our communities. Not only those specific programs, but also smaller applications of those specific programs.
What are some of the technologies that you hear of that are being developed that you think can help your artisans?
You know, one of the things that an idea that's been working through my head, we just finished a session about smart cities and smart grids. And that session was focused more on urban areas. Now the areas that we work with are more semi-urban, if you can call an area of 5,600 people semi-urban, but they are fairly consolidated. And to me, it looks that one of the principles that I took away was that the information technology infrastructure in this day and age is sort of leading the other pieces of this infrastructure. For instance, in this community, there are 3 or 4 different cyber cafes where people can go to get internet. Now, there are probably 3 or 4 houses in the whole community that have indoor plumbing. So that gives you an idea of the different disparities in the availability of infrastructure. And one of the innovations that we're seeing even now in Nicaragua is that people can take USB modems, put them into their computer and get internet access from their quote-unquote living room when they don't have running water in their house. And the development applications of that, I think, are just fantastic.
You know, I got to get back to something. I'm intrigued by the fact that you know all of your suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best success story, do you think?
There are a few. To pick from one, sort of the one that maybe is closest to my heart. There's a producer named Jose Guerrero. When we started to work with him, just from our subjective assessment, he was the poorest of all the suppliers that we work with. Now, by contrast, his products are actually among the best. And Jose, when we first met him, he lived in, his home was covered in a black garbage bag, essentially, with pieces of bamboo taped to the black garbage bag. That was his home. And over the past 18 months working with him, he has graduated to a second home, which is slightly more sophisticated than that one. It now has real walls and a real roof, and 3 different distinct rooms rather than just one. And for the first time, he can stand up in his house. The other one was about 4 feet high, and that was it. And he has also bought his dream home, his lot on his dream home, on which he's building a real cinder block home with a floor and with running water and things like that. So,
all right. So I'm going to let you look 10 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
You've done this for 10 more years, and you're looking back. How'd you do?
Mm-hmm. I think the way that we'll measure that is by the number of homes that have been built, the number of children who have been put more through school, the number of children whose health care is adequately provided for, in terms of how well have we provided their parents with adequate income that they can more appropriately support their families and their communities.
Good way to measure. Neil, thank you very much.
Thank you.